Hi, welcome back to Jenna's Tea Emporium. I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I've been successful in getting out a podcast once a week, I think for over a month. Yeah, like a month and a half, I think. That's pretty impressive. So today's podcast is kind of going to be about children. I guess it's going to be more, it's along the lines of that. I don't want to give it all away. As I start getting into it, you'll understand. So obviously, deciding to, bring children to this world, well, sometimes we always don't decide. Sometimes it just happens, right? As in my case too, mine were not planned. But there's obviously plenty of different situations as to how children come into this world. And sometimes I don't think that men, women, some of them understand the magnitude of what it really means to bring a child into this world. And being a good parent, not just a parent, like a good parent, the sacrifices you have to make. And again, this is a choice, right? Financially, mentally, those are two big choices. And I always tell people though, some people wait to have kids because they're like, oh, I'm not gonna have enough money. I feel like you never have enough money unless you're rich. You'll never have enough money to bring the kids into the world. You just roll with it, right? But it is mentally challenging as well. You just you have to be very patient, very unselfish, sympathetic, empathetic, and each child requires, their own thing because they're their own individual. And as a good parent, you have to lead by example. Doesn't mean we're perfect, far from perfect. But I always told my kids too, though, you are a reflection upon me, right? So basically don't go out there looking like an idiot. And I think for me, it was harder for me because of being a single parent. I was very hard on myself. So I very much was to my kids, how you were raised, act like you know how you were raised type of thing. But again, as we know, kids make their own decisions, whether they can be raised great or not great or whatever. It's part of life, living life, becoming an adult, growing, going through experiences. You have to love them and nurture them. Affection, it's not like coddling. I feel like nowadays a lot of kids are coddled. No. I guess what they would want to call maybe that tough love type of thing. I believe in discipline, consequences. My kids knew, do not test me. Because let me tell you, these kids will test you. And if you fold, it will only get worse the older that they get. And my kids knew, I will follow through. There ain't no threats. It's a promise. And they knew that. Now, whether they chose to still do whatever they did, that was on them. But there were consequences always in my household. And that is not always easy. It's not. It's so much easier to fold than to be stern. And me being a single parent, obviously I had to, be good cop, bad cop. And really you have to physically be there. It's not just about financially, people always throw money at them. No, kids, I can guarantee you, would rather you be there for them than just throw money at them. They want you physically there, present. And I mean present, you know? And be there for emotionally. My kids, I've always talked to my kids, like, I never babied my kids. I always talked to my kids, probably like, I just always talked to them like they were grown-ups, I guess is maybe the word. I mean, I allowed them to be kids, you know, don't get me wrong, but I didn't baby them. And people used to always think my kids were older than they were and just how well they spoke. And I took pride in that. You know, my kids, you know, again, I can't even imagine having more than 2 kids as a parent. Even coming from a 2-parent, if you have 2 parents in the household, just how difficult it is, because every kid is so different and every kid's needs are so different. Yes, they all want to be loved or whatever and nurtured, like I said, all those things I just talked about, but they each come with their own, you know, needs or whatever. Like, you know, for example, like my kids, I'm actually going to do this as probably with my oldest. She has depression, anxiety. I think she just got diagnosed with some sort of ADHD, something like that. But anyway, and then my youngest had, you know, she dealt with a form of depression as well. You know, my oldest was suicidal. My youngest, same thing she did the cutting. And you think as a parent, like, oh my gosh, like, what have I done wrong, right? Like, I set my kids up for success in life, put them in counseling, been there for them or whatever. It just doesn't matter, right? I know I did everything that I could, and they were raised, they wanted or needed for nothing and were very much loved. But again, you know, the world we live in. So anyway, with all of that being said, and bringing children to this world and the magnification of what it takes to bring a child into this world and to be a good parent or whatever. Let's just say now you end up either getting divorced, break up, however whatever the situation is with the person that you had a child with. And I this is like when that relationship is dissolved, parents need to understand that the children come first, their needs. And as adults, you have to be willing and able to put your feelings and emotions aside. And again, I'm not here to judge. I think it's just hard for me though, and I have a very strong opinion about this. It's very hard for me to understand why people, men and women, cannot put their feelings aside once the relationship was dissolved. It's done and over with, right? It didn't work out. However, you have a child or children now in this situation who did not ask to be here. And you really need to come together and do what's best for the kid and co-parent. And it is so hard for me when you see this over and over and over again, where children are being used as pawns. And man, I like, it infuriates me. It is such an ick for me on every level. Because I just don't understand as a parent what you think that is doing to benefit your child. And again, this is to men and women, because men and women both do it. Because you can't put your feelings aside you want to use your child as a pawn, as, oh, you're not going to see your child, or you can't hang out with your child, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. And it's like, why? For what? Because I don't know what you think you're accomplishing in doing that. Because in the long run, you're only hurting the child. And God forbid, when these kids get older and they find out what that parent did, I mean, that really could put a damper on your relationship with that child. Because, you know, kids, when they're stuck in the middle of that, obviously they want their parents to stay together, right? What kid doesn't? But it's just like, imagine how great it would be for your kid to be able to see you both be mature and be able to co-parent and be respectful to one another. And again, I understand, like, I mean, I've been hurt. And I will say, especially my ex-husband was the worst, and that's who my children are to. But I never stood in the way, and still to this day, of him ever having a relationship with his children. I just didn't see no point in it. You know what I mean? It was like, if he wanted to see his kids, great. I just was not into either, like, the whole child support thing. I was not one, again, no judgment to people do this, to people who do this. I'm not going through court. I'm not going to go through child support. Like, I, for me personally, don't have the time and patience to waste my time trying to chase you down for you to financially take care of your kid. I just don't. Either you want to or you don't, right? So that wasn't for me. I know people do their own thing and that's on them or whatever. But if he wanted to see his kids, again, he didn't get much opportunity because, like I said, he was deported. But even with him being in a whole nother country, you know what I mean, he could have very well built a relationship with them on the phone. I mean, that's better than nothing as far as I'm concerned. And that did not happen, you know. I've had many conversations with my children. I've been very honest with them. And that goes back to, like, talking bad about one another. Like, that's just not something I did with my kids. Now, was I honest with my children as to what the situation went down? Absolutely. But I've always told my kids, I know their father loves them. I just, me personally, don't think he's capable of being a father. But I've always encouraged them if they wanted to have a relationship with him. Like, I don't want them to grow up with regrets, you know what I mean? And the older you get and so on and so forth. So I've encouraged that, regardless of what had happened and what he had done to me and basically what he did to my kids. I've never stifled that. I've always wanted them to have a relationship if they chose to. And obviously they're older now, 23 and 19, and you know, who knows what will come with it. But I just would never stand in the way of that, you know, if him wanting to be. Now, I know there's situations, God forbid, one of the parents is, you know, quote unquote bad for the kid. Then yes, that's a completely different situation, you know, because you obviously want your child to be safe. Okay, let's be honest. That's a completely different topic and subject. I'm mainly speaking of when you know that he is a good man or she's a good woman and wants to be involved in their life, and you just choose not to allow them to do that because of your own personal reasons and feelings. You know, as far as, like, I guess for me, I just don't understand what it is and why it is that you can't put that aside and work to co-parent for your kid. Especially, you know, you're the adult in the situation, right? We all have hurt feelings or whatever. You could deal with that separately. I mean, I would just think as a good parent, you'd want the best for your child. I just also cannot stand when people bring children into this world just to say or show that they had kids, but then don't want to take care of them. Like, what logical sense is that? That's so selfish. I'd rather you just not have a kid, period, because just having a kid to say you had a kid and then not being there for them and physically, emotionally, mentally, all of that, for what? Now you have another child in this world who doesn't feel loved, by their parents because you just wanted to be selfish to bring a child in this world to say you have kids. And I see that happen all too many times, and it breaks my heart. I could sit here and do the, oh, woe is me. I chose the wrong person to have children with, and blah, blah, blah. No, I made my bed, and I have to lie in it. And I was not going to sulk about it or whatever. I had 2 children that depended on me for everything. And I made sure that they got everything that they needed, And it doesn't stop. The older they get, it does not stop. You will always be there for your kids. And that whole bringing kids into this world and not taking care of them and being a good parent is right up there with using your children as pawns. And the ones that suffer out of this situation are the children. And then you have people who want to be there for their kids and can't see their kids and have to fight. And I've always told people, just fight and fight and fight, because your kids will see that in the end of how much you truly love them and fought for them, when they get older. I have a strong feeling about child support. I've got $20 in my kid's whole life. But people who don't use child support, and again, if my kids would have child support, how much that would have helped, and how much, their savings accounts would have been great, when they turned 18. Me personally, I just could never use their child support to go get my nails done, go buy me an outfit, like that. This is me personally. Their child support would have been, for food, clothes, school stuff, extracurricular activities, anything that had to do with them. And what wasn't used would have been put in a savings account for them. My kids had a savings account since they were little, since they were babies, basically. And so people who actually have the luxury of getting child support and misuse it, I just don't have sympathy or empathy for people like that. The fact that you, have somebody that wants to take care of your kid and be involved in their life, and you just are ungrateful and unappreciative. Man, if you only knew the other side of it, it is not fun, in any way, shape, or form. But, in the long run, I just, for me, I just wish people would really think about what bringing a child into this world. You see, I get emotional. Yeah. I just wish people understood what it really takes to be a good parent and taking care of kids, and that they don't take that lightly, because it is a huge responsibility. And it is, and it is the hardest job in the world when it comes to being a parent. And there is no handbook. You don't get a handbook at the hospital. These children deserve so much, and so much love and support, and just in all aspects, especially in the world that we're in nowadays. So yeah, I just, I pray that people really, when they want to think about having children, and side note, oh God, I feel so bad when there's actually really good parents that can't have kids. But there are a lot of kids in foster care and you know, stuff like that, or who can get adopted. And God bless you if you have the heart to do that. Man, you are a special human being. But yeah, I just wish people and want people to really understand what it means to be a parent and a good parent and co-parent. It is just so important because there's so many broken homes out here. And just remember your kids, you know, remember what's best for them. Put your feelings aside. You know, 9 times out of 10, those kids were made out of love. They didn't ask to be here. And you as a parent should just want the best for your kids and want them to see them to be happy and successful in life. And that's what I pray every night for my kids, you know, that the Lord will watch over them and that they will grow up to be happy and successful, you know, and healthy in their lives. So, ooh, that one got to me. So yeah, feel free again to hit subscribe, like, comment your thoughts and feelings about this topic. I'd be interested to hear what people say. And yeah, what do I always say? Do not introduce me to a vibe you cannot maintain. I thank you again for joining me, and until next time, bye.